Lewis Reed says, what is something that has surprised you about creating YouTube content? Great question. There's an intimacy to this process that is unequaled. On the flip side, there is a cultural saturation that you get by being on television that is hard to equal under any other medium. Like, being on television is a specific kind of famous that is like deep and real, and YouTube is different. But things that surprise me on YouTube are all about the intimacy of this kind of forum for making and for consuming content. A few years ago, maybe only a year ago, was when the DJI little lavalier microphones came out. DJI makes these beautiful lavaliers that are two little like Tic Tac boxes. Actually, they're about half the size of Tic Tac boxes. And one is the mic you wear, and the other is the one that plugs to your camera. The genius thing that DJI did is they made both units record the sound. So you wouldn't end up in you could end up in a situation where the sound didn't get transmitted to your camera, but you still had it on the lav that the actor was wearing. And that's brilliant. So we got it in, Norm connected it up to my phone, and I recorded a video wearing it. And I just thought, this is great. Yeah, we'll see how this works. And I watched the video, and something was wrong. Like, something didn't sit right with me about it. I had to watch it 3 times before I understood that when I'm here alone recording myself, and this is my main camera when I am recording myself, I'm like working, and you are here. I put you, the royal you watching, into this phone, and I am talking to you. I feel a real presence there, and I am speaking to it. And so when I'm working and I want to say something and I lean in and I go, here's the thing you've got to understand. My voice, the volume of my voice attenuates because I'm leaning into the mic. And that was gone when I was wearing the lavalier for the videos I shoot myself. And that I was surprised to find that my point of view was I didn't want perfect audio. I liked the slightly less perfect audio because it felt like a more intimate experience. And the moment I realized that, I also realized that I would have never come to that conclusion under any kind of television making. And this is a great lesson in that, like, every medium has its own rules and strictures and things, and also every medium that you attack, you're going to have your own point of view on how to be creative in that medium. And so being a storyteller in many different forms, on stage, on camera, on YouTube, on television, at cons, at business conferences. These are all totally different modalities of storytelling. And each of them has taught me unique things about reaching an audience. And I really appreciate that. I'm a performer at heart. And as a performer, I seek a connection with the audience. I want to build a connection with the audience because when that happens, it's magic. It's electric. It happens here all the time. And I've also felt it happen under all the other modalities that I have explored storytelling in. And it's richly rewarding to understand the parameters of each of these different landscapes. So a ton about making YouTube content has surprised me. I'm frequently surprised that the videos that feel the most personal and weird to me are often the ones that get the most views. I mean, I guess that sort of makes sense because when you are truthful at a deep level, it is, I believe, always compelling. And yet, when I come in here and record a kind of a fever dream of a video, Thanksgiving last year, I came in and recorded a 45-minute video about the fact that there's no such thing as a measurement. We can include a link to that in the description. And I called Kalo, my GM, and I was like, I need you to watch this thing. I have no idea how it went. Like, it's so sort of spilled out that I didn't really have a coherent memory of how it went, of how it landed. And that one got millions of views. Okay, maybe not millions, but a lot. I am prone to some exaggeration. Okay, Lewis Reed, that's a lovely question, and thank you. I'm delighted to answer it. Brandon Young Kemkes asks, I'm considering going back to school. Do you have any thoughts on going back to school or any success stories? Thanks for your hard work, guys. We all appreciate your thanks. You're welcome. Going back to school. I do have thoughts. Let me preface my thoughts on going back to school by explaining that I have not gone to school. I spent 6 months at NYU studying acting in the experimental theater wing of the Tisch School for the Arts. I then spent 6 months pretending to attend NYU Film School and never attending a single class. No, I watched Aguirre, Wrath of God, and It's a Wonderful Life, but that was it. So my school experience is infinitesimal. That's not to say I disagree with going to school at all. It's really more of a way of explaining that I had personal issues with receiving information from authorities back when I was 17, 18, 19 years old. And I made my path based on some of those pathologies. But you ask if I have any thoughts on going back to school. In my experience, the adults I know, and my wife is one of them, who have gone back to school have found it insanely rewarding. Now, don't get me wrong. I also know people that grad school broke. I have a couple of friends from my past that went to grad school after a few years, and grad school kind of really seemed to have harmed them in some sad ways. But the example I have from my wife is that, she said she went to college for a couple of years and then dropped out and wasn't sure what she wanted to do. And when she decided to go back to school, she knew what she wanted out of it. And when she knew what she wanted out of it, she never got anything but an A again because she came to play. And it turns out it's not that hard to get great grades when you go back to school if you're really paying attention and you know what you're going to get out of that. That is what I experienced. That is what I've experienced many times with friends, is when they go back to school, they're going back because they seek a specific kind of knowledge, because they have a specific goal to achieve with that knowledge. And that confluence means they came to play. So I'm a fan of going back to school. I like that idea. I think going to gather information because you know what you want to do with it is an inherently affirming creative act. Yeah. Lee Bruner asks, I was a little surprised to learn you are a fan of pop music. Ever spend much time with punk or metal, etc.? Oh, yes, I did spend some time with punk. On the Repo Man soundtrack. Back in the 80s, Alex Cox, an absolute genius who made like 3 movies that I can name, Straight to Hell, Sid and Nancy, and Repo Man. And Repo Man is just one of the great weird movies of the latter 20th century, man. It's up there with Todd Browning's Freaks to me as just like a really singular weirdo film, and I love it. And I watched it endlessly on HBO in high school. My friend Rich and I would quote it constantly to each other. Let's go get some sushi and not pay. And the Repo Man soundtrack had a ton of punk on it, and that was fun to listen to. We listened to a lot of that. But I don't find punk soothing. And I'm not saying that that's the purpose of music, but it's what I want out of music. I like being transported. I like singing along with stuff too. I do a lot of singing along with stuff. I think we put up some of our builds for premium members without a cut, and on some of those, you absolutely can hear me singing along with some of the music that I'm playing. It's not that I'm not a fan of metal or that I don't realize its merits. It's just that it's not the sound that I seek for working or soothing or driving. Yeah. I mean, understand, like, we are all products of where we first started to see ourselves, right? And so for some, that rebellion is a key part of them differentiating and discovering their young selves in adolescence and in puberty. For me, it was endless numbers of weekends building with Legos, listening to Casey Kasem Countdown, America's Top 40 Countdown. And all of those songs from the 70s and the early 80s, man, they are all still in here. And so, yeah, I just have an abiding love of pop music from that.
Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.